Hello, this is Cotton Soups, and today's HTUC video is on Wabalisc. Wabalisc is one of my favorite ice types and is one of the best defensive ice types in the game because of all of its attributes being completely unmatched and unique from most of the metagame. So why not talk about it? Today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to use and counter Wabalisc, from the teammates, encounters, and checks that you will need to know in order to know how to use Wabalisc in the battle, as well as the roles and the sets you'll need to know in order to use Wabalisc just straight away, and of course the defensive typing that will back up everything that you have. Today's video is all about how to use and counter Wabalisc. The role that Wabalisc will play is an essential question to ask, and we can answer this question with the base stats. The base stats are really simple, with the only bad stat it has is its speed tier of 69. This is pretty high in terms of defensive stuff, which thankfully Wabalisc is kind of bulky in that department, but this does let you get outsped by other Lumians such as C.B.O, Valkyrie, Ikazune, and other wall breakers. Do note that you do outspeed some walls and offensive Lumians like Dorego, Setamars, and Himber, as well as some Luminamis. And with the correct speed tier, you can outspeed sluggish Stratosaurs, which overall is pretty good for Wabalisc. However, your melee attack and defenses are all pretty good. Notice that all of these are above 80, which is a good sign. Its melee attack of 99 isn't on par with other wall breakers, but this does let Wabalisc give the ability in order to have mixed attacks, especially with its range attack stat of 112. Like I said, this is on par with other wall breakers, but this is solid damage output for something this bulky. Not to mention that its HP stat will boost its defenses of 83 and 93 in both respective stats, and energy stat of 93 also helps Wabalisc out a lot, especially when the Wabalisc can spam a lot of moves in quick succession. So, what role does Wabalisc play? It is a great mixed tank, as you can both invest in a defense while not sacrificing some defenses on the side, and you do have some great mixed attacking potential. This is even combined with the fact that you have other great coverage moves that I'll probably be talking about later, and the only thing you need to know for Wabalisc is that it's pretty slow. And due to its speed tier, its defensive typing does suffer a little bit. You do have 3 good resistances to ice, air, and typeless. Typeless types aren't that common, but you can try and swap in on raging tackles from a C.B.O or normal type moves from Lurkat and Trumbull. Air types such as Zeppelin and Gargolem attack are some air types you can try and switch in on, which is pretty nice, and ice types like other Wabaliscs, Barbadgers, and Himbers are potentially good Lumians to try and stall out, or just trying to soak up hits in order to get other Lumians in. However, your 3 weaknesses are especially detrimenting to your build, as your speed tier will make it so that you cannot do well against all of these. Not to mention that all of these types do resist your ice stab perfectly. Metal types such as Tyrex and Stratosaur are always common enough to threaten you out, as well as aftermentions like Oxydrake and Valkyrie. And fire types like Pyrelin, Serenite, and Ikazune are all fire types that will be threatening you out a lot. Brawler types are a lot less common, but the big brawler types like Barbadger and Totsab will give you a lot of trouble, and aftermentions like C.B.O. So with that out of the way, let's talk about Wabalisc's defensive set. Wabalisc's range defense set will be running the ability Ignorance, as this will ignore all stat buffs from the opponent. This is pretty good for Wabalisc, as you will be able to stop setup sweepers like Nevermere and Volkolova traditionally, and you can also do a good number against other Lumians like Wintrix, Zeppelin, Gargolem attack, and Bellatrix, as you are bulky enough to take range hits from all of them. Do note that Gargolem attack does have slapdown, so be wary about your item of choice being removed. Your personality will be clever, as you do need to boost your range defense to as high as you can, and the moveset of choice, Lusterloot is so our coverage doesn't get walled by your soul completely, and Deep Freeze will be ran over Frostbeam, as we can hit water types like Barblast and Luminami super effectively, so they are less inclined to stay in. Barbs will be the main move that we're going to be using, as we can set up damage for our wall breakers or just offensive Lumions in general, and Driving Force will be able to help us get Lumions out of the battle that we do not have good matchups with. And the item of choice will be Health Amulet, as we do not have Rejuvenate yet. This will allow us to run one more offensive new move once we get Rejuvenate, but once we get Rejuvenate, Health Amulet won't be the choice, and you can just run a Heavy Armor or choice of Pearls. And the TP is 200 HP, and Ranged Fence will be able to max out our defensive stats, which is the most important thing in this build. 12 energy will also allow 3 layers of barbs, 1 luster loot for your souls, and 4 deep freezes or driving forces, or a mix of the two moves. 48 melee defense is leftovers, and 24 range attack will allow you to 2-hit KO of 48 HP Nevermare with deep freeze, which is pretty nice. And your 16 speed outspeed sluggish Stratosaurs with running 0 speed, and the melee defense is all that you're going to be using. So with that out of the way, let's talk about Wabalisc's defensive counters and checks, as well as its teammates. Wabalisc's offensive counters and checks is really simple, as you need to run fire types such as Ikazune and Volcaloa, who are pretty good. While I did say Wabalisc traditionally can deal with Volcaloa pretty well, do note that Volcaloa still can chip it pretty hard, and it's not the robust Wabalisc that we're used to be running, so Volcaloa will be a lot more better. Cloudtab and Your Soul will have iffy matchups since Wabalisc has access to Deep Freeze and Luster Loot. However, other Lumions like Barbadger and C.B.O can threaten out Wabalisc. Do note that Deep Freeze does hit C.B.O super effectively, so you need to be very wary. And as for defensive counters and checks, I won't be diving into this too much, as offensive counters and checks is just a better way to deal with Wabalisc. Your main ways of dealing with it are fire types like Pyrolin and Seer Knight, and Barblast is an honorable mention, as you can poison stall it or just poison it and then get out of the battle fast to let an offensive Lumion finish the job. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the defensive teammates. This is going to be quite short, as defensive teammates will only mainly be covering Wabalisc's weaknesses, specifically Luminami, Barblast, Harvesect, and Barblast. And Pyrolin will also be really good in covering Wabalisc's weaknesses. Luminami and Barblast can cover Wabalisc's weaknesses to metal and fire, which is pretty nice. Harvesect does also cover that weakness to Brawler as well as Barblast, and Pyrolin can cover the fire and metal weakness. There are a lot more options, so do not think that these are your only options. You can also run other Lumions like Icicles and Your Snacks, which are pretty nice with Wabalisc. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's talk about conclusion and my thoughts on Wabalisc. So overall, I think Wabalisc is a pretty solid Lumion. What it has is pretty nice, as no one in the game right now that is good has Ignorant, which is pretty good for Wabalisc, and you do have moves such as Driving Force and Barbs, which is a very deadly combo on paper, and you do have Luster Loot to stop Spirit types from absolutely obliterating you, and Water types can't even switch in on you consistently because of your Deep Freeze. This is really good for Wabalisc, and Wabalisc will probably stay in the OU meta, or at least top of the UU meta, for quite a long time. Hope you found the video informational enough to like and subscribe, and join the Discord if you want to see more leaks on future Lumion Legacy and Doodle World videos. And of course, remember that Zulong is still a dumpster fire.